Hello and welcome to another fine episode of Learning StarCraft with Dzerzhinsky. And today I'm just going to be going over a ladder match I played a couple of weeks ago, so before patch 1.3. I was going to be explaining what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what I'm seeing, and things like that as per a request that was made. So today my opponent is going to be TankWithStim, who's a 560 point Masters League player. As his name would indicate, and as some of the banter would indicate, this is his second account. Unfortunately, he wouldn't tell me what his original account was, but he was very close to slightly favoured against me, as it was a 14-point game. Well, for me. And so, getting straight into it, you can see I'm putting down a depot at 10 supply, and I'm putting this here as I do against Terran players, because firstly it's just not a good idea to put a wall down. They can put siege tanks here and siege your wall and destroy a lot of your production and supply, or if they go banshees, and if you manage to keep them away from your mineral line, they can start to snipe off the things that are down here. There's not much you can do about it without making yourself very vulnerable below your ramp. So what I'm doing is I'm putting them behind the mineral line, but very specifically where the gaps are. And this is specifically to avoid any blue flame Hellion harass, or not to avoid it, but to make it less effective. Usually blue flame Hellions will like to drop up in this area, or perhaps over here, and they will run up behind the mineral line and then squeeze through. And this is to avoid your army and then do maximum damage to your SCVs. But if you block it off with depots, and you can see I'm putting my barracks here to make it even further to run around in a smaller gap, then they're going to be stuck behind the mineral line trying to shoot, and it's quite easy to avoid too much damage. And if they try to run around, that gives you a good amount of time to react and get your army into position. So that was 12 barracks, 13 gas, and 15 orbital command. And I should just switch into my view actually, there we go. And you see I also sent my SCV out after my 10 depot. And this was just to see what he's doing, and you see a gas. So the main thing you're looking for when you scout a Terran is that you're looking for gas. If they don't have gas, it means one of two things. They're going mass marine opening and you have to start bunkering up, or they're one racks expanding, and you really want to be scouting after to see which it is. If they're one rack expanding, you might want to consider what kind of pressure you can put on, or you might want to immediately start throwing down your own command centre to keep up with their economy. So I threw down my factory as soon as I got 100 gas, and then as soon as I got 75 supply after that, put up the production tabs, I got my second gas. And you see I'm continuing to put my depots behind the mineral line here, and I'm putting my marines down at the ramp, but it's quite important against a Terran to spread them out along the ramp, because a lot will want to just throw up a Hellion to try and scout you, and if they're all bunched up, the splash damage from the Hellion will potentially do a lot of damage. So my strategy here is to go straight into marines, tanks, and then after I get a couple of tanks out, go into Vikings. So you can see I'm going straight for the tech lab, getting out a tank and getting out siege mode. And of course I'm continuing to produce SCVs all the way through this, and trying to continue marine production, though if I need the money for something else I'm quite happy to cut that a little bit. So you can see my first tank is rallied to my command centre here, and I'm going to be sieging that up there, and that's for quite a specific reason. I'll do this on quite a lot of maps, but especially on Scrap Station, because it's so close air spawn. A lot of Terran players will want to drop the back here and run things in, and of course if they drop a tank, there's the Hellion. Of course couldn't get through, it was blocked, couldn't do any damage, so there's the success of that line. But if they drop, it can be quite difficult to deal with if you're caught out of position with your tanks. He's scanning me, I'm scanning him here actually, and I see two starports and two factories, and this tells me immediately that he's probably going for the Iacoic build, which I don't know the specifics of, but I do know that it means he'll come out with a lot of blue flame Hellions. a lot of banshees and probably try to expand relatively quickly. So you'd see my response to this is, of course, to siege up more tanks at my mineral line rather than at the ramp here. I know that I've got a bit of time to react if he comes up the ramp, but it's more likely that he'll drop blue flame Hellions and try to kill my SCVs. And I also immediately threw up an engineering bay and then get down a few turrets. So I'm putting down one each side here, because if you just put one in the middle, banshees can still sneak in and kill them at the side. A lot will just put the one in the middle, but I feel that I see a lot of people doing that and then losing, say, 3 SCVs before they react. And for the cost of those 3 SCVs, you could have just put down another turret and saved them. So that's my thinking there. I'm also putting one down here to protect my ramp and to protect these tanks. Because often you can protect your... If you're protecting, like I am here, you can see he's coming in, just getting shot straight off. If you protect it like that, and also running up my marines, unfortunately, because he comes in here with all these, you can see trying to split my marines a wee bit and failing. But for, what was that, 8 blue flame Hellions there, he killed absolutely no SCVs. He did kill a lot of marines, but I'm feeling in a great position here. I've got my tanks down, all covering my mineral line. I'm not entirely sure what that was. Oh, it was just that last blue flame Hellion. I've got my command centre up to expand, and I've got my reactored starport up, which I know he'll have 2 tech lab starports for his banshees, and so I should have an air advantage and should be able to deal with them in the early game. I still don't feel entirely secure moving out. Oh, in fact I do. I thought I waited longer for that, because this is such a harass based build, the iCoke build. You need to be very careful about having SCVs out here without anything to defend them. So at the moment you can see I'm also moving, immediately putting down turrets and putting down a siege tank here, because I will expect blue flame Hellions to try and run in. One tank, not the best defence against this, because they can run up close and the siege tank won't be able to hit them, but it should provide a little bit of time to get into position. And there goes transfer about half the SCVs, and that's just to make sure that make sure it's not oversaturated for a start, and also to make sure the mineral patches run out at closer to the same time, rather than just ending up with one empty and one with everything on it. I'm moving out here with a few. I've scanned here and I've seen that he has one Viking and 3 banshees, and I'm thinking with 3 here and no air defence, I can snipe a few good units here. Unfortunately, I don't do it very well. I do snipe a Viking, but ideally I would have run further up so that I could have gotten the... I'm very close to getting a... Oh, in fact, do I get that? Yeah, I do kill that Banshee, and I'm very close to getting more, but he pulls all these SCVs to help repair. And he's got a Marine coming out, and he hides these, and I do scan to try and get them. Unfortunately, a bit of bad control on my part there. But it's a fairly effective harass here. I've killed a Banshee, a few Vikings to keep him down, and he's had to pull all of these, so that 16 SCVs, which will obviously be doing quite a lot of damage to his economy. In the meantime, I'm just continuing to stockpile tanks. Obviously a supply drop there where I failed. Putting down another starport, and this because I saw that he had cloak. I'm thinking I want to get out a Raven, and I just want to be able to beef up my Viking production to keep ahead of him. It is a staple of the iCoke build that you always want air superiority, so we can expect him now to be starting to pump out more Vikings to try and regain that, because without it his Banshees don't do a great deal. But after seeing what he had and seeing that I had air superiority at the moment and ground superiority, I'm feeling pretty good about putting on an attack. So I've got 4 siege tanks, a few marines, which I'm running away here before they all get roasted. But this is just great for me. He moved in, that's about 400 or 500 minerals worth of units and lost all of them to just a few marines. So keeping my Vikings a little bit ahead here just to scout, continuing to rally them in. I want to be able to keep air superiority. And a slight mistake here, I would have been better going through here just to prevent any kind of flank like this. And unfortunately he's been pumping out Vikings, and I just don't see these Banshees in time. And they're so powerful at getting rid of tanks. So I lose all the tanks. I do come out on top of the battle, landing my Vikings just to take care of these few Marines. So I've got 4 Vikings. Now I'm thinking that I can move into the mineral line here and do a bit of damage, which I do, but I overstay my welcome quite significantly. He's at his base, he's able to just rally units out constantly, and so while I feel that I have the edge here with my weak Vikings getting taken out by SCVs, that's quite a blunder on my part. So I've now lost as a result of that air superiority. You see, I've got 1 Viking, he has 2 now, whereas before I had 5 and he had none. But I've continued my macro, and here's the Raven coming out. Continued producing Marines, which won't do a great deal. There's just a mineral sink at the moment. You see my money getting a little bit high as a result of that attack, so I'm now expanding again. 15 minutes, maybe a little bit late, but I'm feeling pretty good about that. I don't think he's got a third yet.